Good evening, Steeler fans. Welcome to another Wednesday night here on Behind the Steel Curtain family of podcasts. It's that Wednesday night. It's time for the curtain call. I'm Geoffrey Benedict. Here with me, as always, Shannon White. Shannon, how are you doing?
What's happening, GB? I was just in there watching the West Virginia Mountaineer game, and I said, "Oh, it's time for the podcast. Ready to roll."
All right, we're talking. We're moving from discussing last year into the new year, and we're going to do that by today building the roster. And we're going to do it through a little exercise. We're going to go position by position. We're going to name any major cuts we would make. If there's a player currently under contract that we're like, that player's got to go. If there's, and then for any holes, free agency, draft players like, I'd go out and sign a top tier free agent for this position, or, I'd go draft somebody maybe in the later rounds. Some stuff like that is what we're going to do for each position. And we're going to look through the entire Steelers roster, and we'll see. We'll see if we agree. We'll see if we disagree. We'll maybe get some, see what people in the live chat think. Shannon, you ready to dig into this?
Oh, I've been looking forward to it.
All right. So we're going to start with quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And the big question, this is a big question. Mason Rudolph looks like he's gone, unless you want to make a major push to bring him back. And the big question is, are you keeping Trubisky?
When Trubisky came in, obviously, the Steelers had big plans, and he had big plans, and it looked like a really good fit for him. And I thought he was a good fit for Canada's offense. But now looking at the price tag, it's reasonable for a backup.
It's $8 million.
Yeah,
$8 million could be saved.
I think he is a quality backup. Will he be happy being a backup? He when he comes in, guns a-blazing, he's either going to light it up or, you'll get what happened the 3 interception game. So I think for that price, there might be like a Gardner Minshew from the Eagles right now. There's some guys who would probably be maybe a good fit also, who kind of similar to Kenny Pickett's game that might be a good fit for similar money, who might be okay being the backup. I think Minshew at this point in his career realizes he's a backup.
Yeah.
That's very valuable because a guy who has that mindset, another set of eyes on the sidelines and helps, he can study with the starter and point out things, because Minshew's a veteran, so he can point out things that a younger quarterback like Pickett is very valuable. So that might be a guy that I would look at. And then maybe, they got a couple of 7th-round picks. You're going to have a couple of guys there in the draft that's probably going to fall in that area that, you just get as another camp arm and maybe a developmental guy who could develop into a backup someday, like the young man from Georgia. Of course, I know he got into some trouble. I think he was arrested for drunk and disorderly or something. And so, that'll hurt his draft stock even more. But, based on all reports, he doesn't seem like a troubled youngster, probably bad judgment. But, somebody like that might be a possibility.
Well, it's remarkably similar to what I was going to say. My notes here is I'm happy with Trubisky if he is embracing the role.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You've got to think if you're the coaches and Tomlin and you think, okay, this guy's going to be good, he's going to fit it, fine. Otherwise, trade him, cut him, whatever you got to do. Don't pay him that $8 million you could save if he's not interested in doing the job building up Kenny Pickett. You can find someone else who will. Probably for cheaper, might not be as good when they get in the game, but that's not the point. The number one backup here is there to help Kenny Pickett be a better quarterback.
Yep.
That's his number one job at this point. And I also, looking at those late round picks, I like an underrated, athletic quarterback, can move around a bit, let him get in training camp, get to see him a bit. You could go with the UDFA if you want, an undrafted free agent if you want. You could bring back, like, name I'd love. I think a lot of Steeler fans would love to see it is Josh Dobbs. I think everyone liked him when he was here. People would enjoy him coming back, someone like that. If Trubisky's gone, but I think the big thing for me is when you're looking at bringing in a rookie, undrafted free agent, 7th round pick, somewhere in there, you're looking for someone who is athletic, like a Chris Oladokun, who they brought in. Yeah. Someone like that. I think that's your thing. Your goal here is find someone like Tyler Huntley. If you could find that late,
that's those 7th round Mr. Irrelevant picks are all the rage right now.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a guy starting to playing in the Pro Bowl. I actually watched it. I actually watched some of the Pro Bowl this year.
Yeah.
I don't want to get off topic. We could talk about the Pro Bowl. I actually enjoyed it. I thought it was much better than it has been the last few years. But still, nothing like when I was younger. Nothing like the 90s Pro Bowls where they were trying to murder each other. Those were games. Anyways, I think we're good on quarterback here. Everyone in the live chat's agreeing with us pretty much. I think we're good there. I think we all are in agreement there. Let's move on to running back. I assume you're keeping Najee and Jalen Warren. But behind them, we've got Benny Snell, who's a free agent, Anthony McFarland. You've got options.
Yeah.
You've got plenty of options there behind two guys that are set. Do you bring anybody? Do you worry about this position? What are you doing behind Najee Harris and Jalen Warren, Shannon? Uh-oh.
My screen went off. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. I'm sorry. I didn't know if that was you or me. I think we just had dead air there for a minute.
I lost everything for a second. I'm not sure. But as far as the running back position, of course, we're happy. If Benny Snell, because he's such a good special teams guy, he showed with a good offensive line, he can be effective as a power guy and a short yardage guy. I'm happy with him. If it looks like the price is going to be too much, you can roll with Anthony McFarland. Also, you got to remember Master Teague, who they re-signed later in the year after he was injured early, and they released him. Then they re-signed him, and they were really impressed with him at training camp. And a guy who could, maybe he was a well thought of coming out of high school and at Ohio State. And he's a power guy and kind of freaky strong athlete. So, I don't really think they need to even invest a pick unless somebody just crazy fell that they wanted to make sure that they didn't have to try to sign as an undrafted free agent. But I'm pretty satisfied with the running back position as well.
Yeah, my point here is you've got your two, but you are going to need three.
Yep.
Just from the point of if Najee Harris goes down, you need two guys behind that. Like if he misses 2 or 3 games, if Jalen Warren's out for a couple of games, you need somebody. We saw Benny Snell come in, run for 5 yards carry, 12 rushes, 60 yards. That's good. Anthony McFarland looked all right. I would bring back Snell if he's affordable, if he's reasonable. I'd even pay like more than a third string running back for him simply because of his special teams. Because if you let him go, you have to have someone to fill that special teams role. Jalen Warren wasn't that guy. And if you look at his size, he's a little small for that position. I wasn't even thinking about Master Teague. That's a great name to bring into this. For me, I think UDFA's special. If they look around, they see, hey, there's a running back over here that's undervalued right now, and he's a really good special teamers, and no one seems to be interested in signing him. Make that kind of a move. Otherwise, I think you're set enough. It's undrafted free agents or bring back Benny Snell or a Master Teague type job to win. If
you have the value, like you said, somebody that say it's McKinnon from the Chiefs, and the Chiefs are going to go younger, go in another direction, and nobody's really interested because he's around 30 now. but you see how effective he was, especially catching the ball late in the season.
Mhm.
Yeah, that might be a guy you would look at in a really, team-friendly contract. But I have to say this about Benny Snell. If you would have told me at this point of the offseason, last offseason, that I would ever want to see him back in a Pittsburgh uniform, I'd say you're crazy. But he proved us wrong, and he showed if you give him a line, he can be effective. So,
Yeah.
and like I said, special teams, he's superb. So you have to consider that if the price is right.
I mean, early in the season, we were wondering if Najee Harris was even going to stick around. We're like, man, nobody's a good running back. Then the offensive line gets it together, and now we're like, you can put literally anyone back there. We're fine. It's okay. It's all right. Shannon's going to pick up a couple of yards if you need it. But yeah, I think that's great. On Anthony McFarland, I want to get to him. He has never played on special teams. When he has, it has not been good, and he has never gone back to it. So I don't think he is an option here because Jaylen Warren is not a big special teams guy. So I don't think you're seeing Anthony McFarland in this picture because then you're not having two backup running backs who don't play special teams.
No.
The Steelers aren't going to do not on a Mike Tomlin team. That doesn't work. Moving to fullback, the really only question here is you bringing back Derek Watt? You bringing in a new fullback? Or are you just saying we don't really need to fill that specific position?
I'm not for sure. What is he scheduled to make this year? Do you know what it is?
Who?
I'm not positive.
What he made last year? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
He was around $4 million a year, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. And I just don't know. I mean, what he gives them in special teams, he's very valuable, and it keeps, his superstar brother, the most important player on the team, happy. So, you look at it and you justify it that way. He showed that he can, offer some short yardage conversions and he's a decent blocker, but, they could probably go cheaper. Like I said, they could probably try to use Connor Hayward and save some money and try to use him, as an all-purpose H-back. It really is going to come down to maybe even towards the end of camp, how many positions? Is there somebody they want to try to keep? Do they have, to free up some money to sign somebody late in camp, because a lot of times guys come available then. That would be the only way I would see them not bringing him back, but it could happen.
Okay, I looked it up. He was just under $4 million a year for his contract. It was around 10. I think it was around $10 million for 3 years, so 3.5, somewhere around there. Math, not my strong suit. But yeah, in my opinion, looking at Derek Watt, I'd bring him back for that kind of range. You look at what special teams players get now. When they first signed him, I was like, that's a lot for a fullback, and that's a lot for a special teams player. But I guess you're getting both. But that's still kind of a bit. Look at special teams ace contracts now. That's not a big deal. That's not a big contract. I would not be opposed to bringing back maybe a 2-year deal this time. I don't think there's going to be a market really for him. He's getting a little older. But I'd like to bring him back. We actually did finally use him. I thought we used him like the right amount, right? You don't want a fullback to be a major player, but I mean, he, again, going to bring it up. He converted 7 of 8 short yardage runs. That's about right. Scored 2 touchdowns. That's good.
Yeah.
That's about right. That's about what you expect in a Matt Canada style offense from that type of player. I do think if they don't bring him back, we need a fullback because I don't want to put Connor Hayward in that position. We saw what he can do as a route runner. And we see what he does from H-back, from those positions. I don't want to put him at fullback. That's a different kind of collision. That's a different kind of position than what I think he plays best at. So for me, I'm not sold on Connor Hayward being that guy. I think he's more valuable other places. But
he's got that Arnhead blood in him.
I know.
I mean, he can bang heads. I mean,
I know. Yeah, I think he's much
no more than they use the fullback. It is conceivable to consider using him that way because if for some chance the Steelers, and I'm not trying to get ahead of the conversation, but if they was able to upgrade tight end 2, then, I'm afraid it's going to cut into Hayward, his playing time. And you can, if you use him, move him around, like, as a multi-purpose H-back, he would have more play. And he's more dangerous on the field than Derek Watt is.
That is true. That's true. So if you want, in my opinion, if you're doing that, you're going more in the direction of the Will Johnsons, the Kerry Davis, the old H-back / fullbacks of the Bruce Arians period. And those guys weren't the blockers Derek Watt is. And I don't think Connor Hayward's going to be that level of blocker. He's just not. That's not his game. He's more of a runner. He's more of a catcher. He can block. He's not bad at it, but he's not Derek Watt. Derek Watt isn't a superb blocking fullback, but he's better at it than Connor Hayward.
Yeah, definitely.
So that puts us on to tight ends, where you've got Pat Freiermuth back. You've got Connor Hayward. Zach Gentry's a free agent. What are we doing there?
Well, in a perfect world, Gentry will want to come back at a reasonable price. Nobody will offer him crazy money, and the Steelers can bring him back. Keep the, Freiermuth and Gentry are like brothers, man. Those guys just hit it off. They're hilarious together, and that means a lot. That tight end room is a cohesive unit, and you bring him back, and then you don't have to worry about tight end in the draft. If you sign Gentry, unless just a great value is too good to pass up. That would be great because they have so many holes to fill that are more pressing. But like I said, if let's say that Michael Mayer is the number one tight end and he falls to 17 and, the Steelers have him rated that high on their board. If you're really going to do best player available, you'd have to at least consider pulling the trigger. And especially with Canada in his run heavy sets, the way he struggles to, scheme wide receivers open, he's much better at getting tight ends, in space and getting them open. Pickett likes to use the middle of the field. He likes to use tight ends. I mean, when you look at the big picture, it's not the craziest idea. They could easily, if Gentry leaves, say in the second round, maybe that first or second pick of the, in that second round, they have like Washington out of Georgia or Kincaid out of Utah, two guys that are right up there, second round grades, who would bring great value. It would be better receivers than Gentry. And Washington's a better blocker, I believe, already.
Yep.
So, again, you want to give offense weapons. It don't have to be a certain position, but you want weapons and weapons that your offensive coordinator can utilize. And like I said, I'm not as excited about adding another receiver because I don't know if Canada is going to be able to, fully use him to his max. So, but with all the holes, especially on the defensive side, if the Steelers could sign Gentry reasonable, and then, that would free up, they wouldn't have to really focus on tight end in the draft.
Yeah, see now, if this was a really well-designed show, I'd be sitting here saying, Shannon, you're crazy. You can't draft a tight end early in this draft. But the problem is I agree with you. I think that's the move. In my opinion, that's like, and I know this is likely where we're a little bit too clever for our own good. And we're like, it would work really well. But man, the Steelers' best sets were two tight end sets. Their offense was just flat out better with Zach Gentry on the field than it was with Chase Claypool on the field, even in the first half of the season. I pointed out, some other people were pointing out, they're like, the offense runs better with Zach Gentry than Chase Claypool. If you could get another tight end who's a mismatch and can also block, and you're sitting there saying, yeah, like our run game, our offensive line is doing well. We've got not just one, we got two tight ends, You kind of bring that value where a really good slot receiver, let's say Calvin Austin III, turns into a really good young receiver. But what does he offer you in a run play? Right? Whereas if you've got a Pat Freiermuth offers you a lot in the run game. Yep. If you can get a second receiver who's like a I'm going to go with the title. A poor man's. I'm going to bring up Heath Miller. Cardinal sin here.
Yeah.
Like calling out old names. But you get like a poor version of Heath Miller out there where on the run play, the dude's an asset. And in the passing game, he's not easy to cover if you're the kind of guy that can handle him in the run game.
Yeah.
And you can just line up there and be like, we're going to run at you until you have to load the box, and then we're going to throw. We got these 2 tight ends out here. We got receivers. I think it's great. And I honestly think with George Pickens as your Z receiver, you don't need more defensive backs out there. You want, if you tighten that formation and you just have the 2 guys out wide, you give them more space. Yeah. Give George Pickens and Deontay Johnson space. Let them cook. Put in another tight end who can block and do stuff. I'm big on it. Yep. I really like it. And
who else is big on it? Since I brought it up, wrote the article, and me and you've talked, and now Jeff Hartman, our fearless leader, he's like, I'm all for that extra tight end. I think when people step back and honestly look at it, and I have nothing against Jordan Addison, and if that's the value and that's the route, I trust the Steelers. But I'm just saying, when you step back, it's not a crazy idea at all.
Yeah. And if you saw the podcast Ben Roethlisberger does now, he had Pat Freiermuth on there, and he asked Pat Freiermuth about jet sweeps, and Freiermuth was like, "Dude, I want the ball."
Yeah,
like he's like, I want to carry 1 or 2. They did it with Eric Ebron. It actually worked with Eric Ebron. He scored a touchdown on one, if I remember correctly.
Well, Travis Kelce runs them all the time.
Mm-hmm. Connor Hayward can do it. It's not a bad move. Not a bad move.
No, it's not.
All right, moving on from tight ends. We both agree there. We got a lot of comments about the tight end class from going back to the fullback discussion, saying Connor Hayward, people believe in that. He's more explosive than Watt. Could be a better one there. Zach Gentry gives us nothing if he starts over Pat. Thank you for that one. More agree with draft the guy from Georgia. Mm-hmm. Different guys. Yeah, we can move on from Zach Gentry. That's not a hard person to replace. Mm-hmm. And there's such potential to upgrade at tight end and really be dangerous. I like that a lot. Moving on to wide receiver. So now we're spending a top 50 pick. Our first top 50 pick is off the board here with the tight end. Mm-hmm. Moving on to wide receiver. Steelers draft a wide receiver almost every year. Are you doing that this year? How are you addressing the third receiver? We only have 2.
Well, again, now we got, Anthony Miller, who was going to make the team, and he got injured. It might have come down to, Miller, Calvin Austin III, and Boykin, to make that the roster. One of them guys might not have made it last year.
Yep.
And so now you have Miller, who's signed, and he's going to be in there, and hopefully he can stay healthy. He can really work the slot. That's what he's good at. Then you got Calvin Austin III that, we don't know what he can do, but we also don't know that he can't because we haven't seen it. If he could gain, say, 10 pounds, 8 to 10 pounds of muscle, maybe hold up a little bit, better against the pounding because he is a smaller guy, but that speed will play. I mean, you just watch his film, and he just runs away from guys, even guys who are drafted in the NFL. He just separates. And, if he can be used, in the sweeps like you was talking about and some reverses and, move some guys around and get him in any kind of space, he's going to be hard to tackle. He's going to be hard to catch. He might go down. But even in the film, he didn't look like he just goes straight down. He has some fight in him. This ain't a Dre Archer situation or even a Deontay Johnson, in my opinion. It seems like he has a little more fight and tries to, at least strive forward for what yardage is there. So, I think that Pickens hopefully will make a huge leap. If he really works hard this offseason on his footwork, that's what he has to clean up. That's what he has to work on more than anything. I believe in his hands. I know what a contested catch guy he is. His intensity, I didn't know. I was talking to a guy today, and I was like, he was talking about, he was still a fan. So that's what got us talking. And he said, I was so excited about Pickens. And I said, do you see the beginning of that Ravens game? I think it was the first Ravens game. First play of the game, it's a running play. And I think it was Peters, was just kind of standing there, wasn't expecting it, and Pickens just flattened him. I mean, so the rest of the game, and then the next game, they're watching. Cornerbacks now are watching because they know how physical he can be. So I love all that. If he cleans up his footwork, you've got a real potential wide receiver one. Johnson is what he is, but if you match him up, as we talked about, with number 2, number 3 corners for teams, and you run him more inside routes, and I think he likes them quick slants and stuff like that. And you have another weapon, that number 2 tight end, to pull that way and open that middle of that field up some. He can really do damage in there. And I think him and Pickett didn't have any chemistry this year.
No, but they had no time together.
Yeah, if they develop that, I think Pickett's accurate enough and Johnson can get open enough that their numbers could improve next year. So I'm not really that worried about wide receiver. There's some guys in the 4th round range. Ford Wheaton out of West Virginia. I'm really familiar with him. Mind you of Michael Thomas. Physical, can work in middle, good height, 6'4", 6'3", 6'4". There's some guys in there that they might consider in the 4th, but with all the holes they have, they don't have to. Yeah. So it'll depend on value, who falls where. But I wouldn't expect anything prior to the 4th. What about you?
I wouldn't personally draft a receiver at all. In my opinion, I wouldn't. I don't think that's something the Steelers really need right now to build this team. I didn't want to ask you because Gunnar Olszewski's back. You left him out of your discussion. And I want to ask you Steven Sims specifically because he's a restricted free agent.
Okay.
So the Steelers can make him a restricted free agent offer. Would you do that first? Would you do that with Steven Sims? He was a solid returner, not a great returner. Made some plays he had some threat on the jet sweeps. As a receiver, made some nice catches, but also had a really low completion rate. Like really low. And he was one of the few guys with a lower yards per target than Deontay Johnson. And not to be a broken record on that, that's hard to pull off. That's hard to pull off. Are you making him an offer, or are you moving on from Steven Sims?
I know that the amounts you have to offer for certain, with the restricted guys, I know it come out. I didn't get to see what that would be. What the offer would have to be for him. He is a quality return man. It's funny. I guess I didn't, Ray McLeod looked better returning the ball for the Niners than he ever did for the Steelers. I kept watching him and I'm like, man, he looks really good returning, these kicks. But then again, I know the Steelers are not, that's one of our weaknesses is our special teams. Danny Smith, they get tons. It's either a procedural, holding, illegal block penalty on any return. Even if it's a success, it's like, well, illegal block, and they don't do a good job blocking. On punt returns, usually one of the gunners is getting ready to hit the returner when he catches it. If there's any hang time at all. That's something I think he needs to improve. But as long as Danny Smith's been here, that's been the case. Now, they're better on coverage teams, but we're not good blocking for our return men. But I think he has value. I think he showed toughness as a receiver. Some of them catches were across the middle, and he took some pretty big hits, man. He held on to the ball. So, but I wouldn't overpay for him because I don't think he brings anything special that would warrant that. And Olszewski, I'm just, the fumble, that was such a huge, play in the season. It really was. I think it really kind of cost them that game, with what transpired after that, and which kept him out of the playoffs. So I just don't think he offers them enough to, again, I think they can save a little money if they go another direction.
Steven Sims was undrafted. You aren't going to get the availability of the original round tenure. Yeah. You can't do that. So you'd have to actually have to make him a decent offer. So I wouldn't do it. If he's really cheap again, like he was when they brought him the first time, really when they first brought him in, it was kind of a camp contract. It wasn't really a big deal. They brought him in, and that wasn't a huge deal.
Was he a futures?
I don't remember.
I can't remember if he was futures or was he practice
how they got him.
Yeah, it might have been practice squad.
Oh man, that's terrible. I think they're going to keep Gunnar Olszewski around. If he's your number 3 or number 4 receiver, if he's getting any kind of playing time, that's not good. But he's not a bad person to have in the room. If your other guys, like say Calvin Austin III is returning kicks and he's having a game where he's fumbling or something, you put a Gunner back there, Gunner's going to catch the ball and give you basically nothing. But he's going to catch it. I think for me, the only real re-signing I look at on the wide receiver side and say that's a guy I'd re-sign is Miles Boykin. And that's because I love special teams, and he's one of the best gunners I've ever seen.
Definitely.
He doesn't really play a lot he doesn't do every phase. He's not as good in other roles, but as a gunner on kickoffs and punt covers, man, I love him. He's fantastic. I'm with you. My big thing would be bring back a Boykin for special teams, and then maybe look for a veteran if there's a cheaper one that's more of a sure-handed guy. I like the idea of a bigger, more physical receiver. I've given the example of a Juju Smith-Schuster type of player. Man, not bringing him back or all that stuff or highly picked, but someone who's a possession receiver, who's more physical, who's going to be like positioning on the ball and just reliable. That's what I'm looking for as receiver. If you're going to add to this room, you just need someone who's reliable, not a big play guy, not an always open guy, someone who will just be there to catch the ball.
And knows his role.
That's a big one. All right, last part of the offense, the offensive line. This is a big one. Well, what are you looking to do on the offensive line? They're obviously returning all 5 of their starters, but you don't have much in the way of depth at all behind them. No. Kendrick Green is under contract. That's pretty much it. That's really it. So where are you looking to go? What are you looking to do with the offensive line with basically 6 guys under contract, basically?
Well, the good thing is in Mason Cole, James Daniels, and Chukwuma Okorafor, you have stability. You feel good about that side of the line and the way they gelled. I think that the left side of the line did better late in the year than a lot of people want to give them credit for. A lot of times we get on a roll because they played so badly early that it's hard to give them credit when they do start to do something better. As a run blocker, Dan Moore actually really improved. He and played excellent in that second half of the season. And Dotson has always been strong, and their communication got better. They played better off of each other. Both guys dealt with missed assignments. Both guys had a lot of penalties. Moore, he's the blindside protector, and we don't need Pickett getting big shots because he's not being. And we already see some concussion, concerns if he takes very many big shots. I think an upgrade, whether it's a left tackle or left guard, would be warranted. I've said before, I think if you move, I would consider moving Dotson to right guard and move Daniels to left guard because Daniels is very versatile. And I think Dotson's better at right guard. And then try to get you a young tackle, left tackle, to at least come in and start to be grooming, and because eventually Moore can be a swing tackle. But they definitely need to add talent there and hopefully a reasonably priced free agent, to his depth. Because like you said, there's guys out there that can play all 3 interior positions. Cole can do that. Daniels can do that. But you don't want to mess with that, But there is options out there. But it's going to be hard to get more than 2 guys in one offseason, that can actually come in and play. So I think maybe having a battle at camp for maybe left tackle, get somebody to compete with more, maybe a draft pick. And if you go that route, then maybe a free agent to also push Dotson.
Yeah, I think for me, this is a big offseason for the offensive line because you do have 5 starters. That offensive line last year, if you went into this year with the offensive line you had at the end of last year and they stay healthy and they play like they did the last 5-6 weeks, you have a solid NFL offensive line. Not a great one, but you've got a solid to good one, much better than we've had the last couple of years. You're a big improvement over that. So you can go into next season and say, we don't need anybody. I double checked and made sure. Yeah, they have 6 guys under contract. So you've got to add bodies.
Yeah.
Right. You're going to add bodies. CEOs have been doing consistent work, going out, finding free agent guys who are veterans, who are cheap, who have position flexibility. They've been doing that for several years now. So I expect them to continue that. But what I would look for is what you said there. A left tackle, able position that sometimes rookie left tackles have to slide in to guard. I'm kind of looking the mid rounds. I'm not looking one of the top 50 picks. We got 3 top 50 picks. Unless it's someone really impressive, I don't like that. I think if you're spending an offensive line pick there, you're not getting that tight end that I want.
The one thing we've talked about that, and I agree about the tight end, and you know how it goes, we're on the same page. I think that we got Andy Weidl.
Weidl.
Which way do you say it?
I think it's Weidl.
Weidl. Okay, we got Weidl.
Sure.
Now he knows he built this Super Bowl. He helped build this Super Bowl Eagles team.
Yeah,
he knows that both foundations, how important they are. Even when they didn't necessarily need a top, lineman at both, he went and got them.
Yeah.
And they have great depth at both positions.
Yep.
And that is the new way. That is the way. I'm gonna start, talking to Yoda here. But that is the way. They have to strengthen and build these lines. Yep. And you have to do it with earlier picks. The Steelers haven't used anything early in a 3rd round pick, and that was on Kendrick Green, which was a reach. But so if Broderick Jones, a guy like that, is there in that 1st round and they pull the trigger, they got to start doing it. I mean, every year you have got to keep adding those big boys on that offensive defensive line in those early rounds. And they have 3 picks in them first 2 rounds. So honestly, I would be happy. I mean, I'd like, skill position guys are awesome, but the foundation you got to have. And if there's an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, and to keep them young and build those foundations, I'll be happy.
Yeah, I was going to put an offensive lineman in that top 50, but I ended up cutting it for a different position, which we'll get to in a minute. Because I've only spent 1 so far.
Yeah.
I'm going with like the 80th or 117th pick in the draft with an offensive lineman. I think we can get away with that. I think we can. And I'm really hopeful Kendrick Green embracing being a center. He's working with Marquise Pouncey. I think he can become competent. Someone asked, are we bringing back J.C. Hassenauer? I'm not. He does not fit what they want to do on this offensive line. He does not fit Pat Meyer and Matt Canada. He was a good fit for the previous schemes, not now. He is much more a vertical north and south kind of center than he is a lateral movement guy. So for me, the big thing, the scheme fits. If you're looking at offensive linemen in this draft for the Steelers, if you're a fan who likes looking for that stuff, you need an offense where you see these guys doing run plays and they're moving laterally. You need to see a team doing a lot of outside zone. You need to see a lot of movement from these guys, not just athleticism, but that they know what to do and that they can block people and move them while moving laterally. That is going to be a huge part of any guy who gets drafted by this Steelers team to play offensive line. That's a very big deal. And I expect the same from any veterans they bring in. They're going to have to be from that kind of a scheme. So that's what I'm looking for. And I do absolutely think that a top 50 offensive lineman is very very fair game for the Steelers to be picking here. I think we're good there, right? We cleaned up the offense. So it's a good time to take a break. We'll take a short commercial break, and when we come back, we will start talking about the Steelers defense. And we're back. We finished up the offense in the first half. We are ready to move on to the defense, my favorite side of the football. Well, let's go. So we'll go right into it. Defensive line. And in my opinion, is one of our biggest free agent spots. Because you've got Larry Ogunjobi, who was number 2 in snaps on the defensive line. Chris Wormley, number 3 in snaps on the defensive line. Both of those are free agents. Tyson Alualu is probably retiring. Where are we going here? That's some number 2, number 3, and number 4 in snaps on the defensive line, all out the door. How are you addressing the defensive line, Shannon?
It's going to really depend on how that draft falls. If you could get Ogunjobi back, I think you want him back. To keep that cohesion, he pairs well with Hayward. Hopefully, you can get him at a reasonable contract. And Wormley's gone; he'll miss at least half the season. And I think they needed an upgrade there anyway. Lulu, it's time. It's past time. He done great for us, and I appreciate everything he did, but he's done. So you really need to look for, some free agent talent. But there's one position they need to focus on in free agent more than any other. So I hope they can find a good run stopper, a big boy. They need some beef on the inside. Adams can be a backup if they wanted to bring him back. But he doesn't need to be your starting nose tackle. And I don't think it's time to move Hayward inside yet. Not all the way inside. Because he showed there late in the season that he's still a star. So I would count on him at least one more year. But you got to start thinking long term. I don't know if Leal is going to be a full-time defensive lineman, or if he might even be an edge guy or work a little of both. Because, some guys can't put on weight and still be effective. And some guys can't lose weight and not necessarily be faster, but they're weaker. So, he might be, the weight he is might be what he's going to be. And he might be a good tweener. So I'm not counting on him for either position. So I would like to see him bring in some beef on the inside. Maybe that young man out from the Vikings or Payne. I think he's a free agent. And he's going to be pretty pricey. And I want to spend money at another position, which we'll get to later. So I think they need to look for a couple of value signings. And then, they got that kid out of Baylor. He's a mountain. He's an immovable object, but he's got some athleticism. He offers you a little more quickness than when you look at him, you would think. So you get a guy like that, he's going to help solidify the center of that line for years. Yep. And I think it'd be a great second round value. So depending on how everything falls. So I think they're going to have to put free agents capital into it and draft capital into that defensive line because they've gotten old and they've gotten thin quickly.
Yeah. All right. Look, I'm sorry I didn't do this when we started. I meant to do this each position, but returning on the defensive line, Cameron Hayward, Isaiah Loudermilk, DeMarvin Leal, Montravius Adams. That's who they have. Yeah. Returning on the defensive side of the line.
Now, I didn't mention Loudermilk. The reason I didn't is because I know what a great coach Dunbar is. I mean, we all know that. And he just and I'm going to give Loudermilk a pass that he was dealing with injuries early in the season, and Leal was just more effective with what they wanted to do.
Yep.
But late in the season, he played some. against them run-heavy teams, he didn't stand out. I did not see an upgrade from him from rookie year to last year. Now, he looked good as a rookie because Wormley looked so bad. Now, this year, Wormley stepped up in the run game. Wormley was much better this year in the running game. And so I think, therefore, when we seen Loudermilk, it was like he didn't look very impressive. So I'm not willing to count on him going into this season.
Yeah, the sad thing about Chris Wormley is the game he got hurt against the Ravens, he was our best defensive lineman that game. He was playing better than Cameron Hayward. He was absolutely going off, and then he's hurt.
Yeah.
And loses his season, loses this season, like he's going to lose a lot of this season, and he's not good enough. The teams are going to sit him there. Yeah. It's sad. He was playing his very best football of his career when he got hurt, which is sad. Yeah, I agree with you on Loudermilk. Loudermilk is who he is. He's not really a defensive tackle. He's a 5-tech that you're going to want to use against the run, and that's about it. Mm-hmm. That's really so he's a backup, right? That's solid backup. If your backups can't defend the run, you're in trouble. If your backups can't rush the passer, well, you can live. You can survive with that. So he's not a big deal. For me, Ogunjobi would be a great re-signing. I don't know if he'd cost you any more. His statistics were worse. Mm-hmm. He's obviously not coming. He was coming off an injury last season. If you get him for the same rate, if you get him around the same money that you got him last year, I'd take it. I'd take that. I think he's a good fit for what they do. If not, take that money, go find a replacement. You've got to find somebody ready to start, ready to contribute, ready to be an anchor on this defensive line. You have to.
Yep.
That's how the NFL works. And number 2, I'm adding that high draft pick as well.
Yep. Top
50 draft pick, and your big, in my opinion, the biggest free agent signing I'm penciling in here is a defensive line. Whether that's Ogunjobi or someone else, I'm not breaking the bank, but you're going to have to pay somebody to get a starter. And you still need a third guy. You need a 3-man rotation that is better, where the third player is better than any number 3 defensive lineman they've had recently.
Oh, definitely.
Back since Tuitt. Like if you go back to Hayward, Tuitt, and Alualu before Alualu, got injured and got too old there. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of number 3 we need, and I think the best way to do that is bring in a young guy, bring in a young stud, let him develop before. I keep saying this is 3rd year in a row. I'm saying this before Cameron Hayward gets old enough that guy's not looking at Cameron Hayward and being like, holy crap, I want to be that guy when I get, I want to be that guy when I grow up, that kind of a thing where you're sitting there learning from him because you're watching him dominate. You're watching him do stuff that you don't understand how he can do it, and picking up the lessons, picking up how to learn, learning how to work from that. I just think that's how you pass it down. So for me, I'm with you. You got to spend money in free agency. You got to draft high, and you're probably still adding some bodies.
Yeah.
Just in there too, because that's a position where you're losing a decent number of players. You got to fill those spots. It's a huge position. You win in the trenches.
Yep.
That's it.
And they did add that Marshall young man, Jonathan Marshall, and another guy, I can't think of his name.
Ren, I think.
Late in the year that they say that they think can be part of the rotation. So they're already thinking ahead. Yeah.
I think in numbers.
Get their bodies.
That's your Henry Mondoza, Isaiah Bug level guys. Like those are guys, they come in for a few snaps and you're okay. They come in for more than that, you're not.
All
right, moving on from defensive line. This one should be a little easier. Outside linebackers, you're returning TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. And Jameer Jones is an exclusive rights. Let me check my notes here. Make sure exclusive rights free agent. So he's a Steeler. Mm-hmm. They have him for next year. So you got 3. Are you too worried about anything about the other position? What are you doing for your 4th outside linebacker?
Is Reed free agent or because he's unrestricted free agent. Okay, he needs to go because we talked. I like him, but he's too little to play.
Good, you don't have to cut him.
Yeah, he's too little to play edge for the Steelers. They need upgrade, in the depth department. but there's a couple of guys in the draft that they might could consider. You have to watch. If you bring in a guy who's a very accomplished, veteran, he's like, I want to start. I want more
playing
time.
Play.
Yeah, look, they've already went through that.
Yeah, it's like the two guys in front of you aren't sitting for you, bud.
That's not going to work. So, one of the things I would do this offseason, like I said, I would try to approach Highsmith and say, hey, we would like to, you to be here. We know you love being here. We want to offer you a 4-year deal. Try to get him because his price will only go up to where they will not be able to afford him maybe, and keep that tandem together. And Jameer Jones can be, your number 4. He can be, special teams contributor and all that, but they need a better number 3. Now, who that is, whether it's in a draft pick or whether it's a reasonably priced free agent, that's what I would look at. But that would be the focus, would be on that outside linebacker number 3 position.
I'm with you there, and for me, I like a veteran there. Mostly because I don't want to spend draft capital on the position when you got your guys, right? You're not looking to draft somebody to replace one of those two. You're looking to keep both those guys.
Sherry Richards mentioned Roche's back.
Yes, Quincy Roche is on the roster.
Yep. So
there's a chance there between him and Jameer Jones. You got that. I still think you need to add one more.
Yeah, I do too.
But it's not a priority.
Roche has got a much better pass rush repertoire.
Yeah.
Than Jones has. And I like Jones because he sets a good edge.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know if you want them two as your 2 depth guys.
I liked Jameer Jones a lot late in the season, the way he was playing. I really liked, but again, he was playing a lot against the run heavy teams.
Yeah.
The Ravens and such, but I liked what he brought. I thought he was our best backup outside linebacker last season at the end of the year. So we'll see. Quincy Roche, Jameer Jones. I still think we're adding somebody.
Yep.
And I think that's a position where you'd add someone like if you remember back to like Anthony Chickillo, not flashy, not going to give you splash plays, but he's going to be at the right place at the right time. He's going to be doing the right stuff. And he's a really good.
Do not bring up Chickillo.
Okay.
You know how I feel about Chickillo.
Oh, that's right.
Everybody knows how I feel.
I forget.
I can't believe you brought up Chickillo on me. Oh my gosh, sir. No, I'm
sorry. I forget all that stuff.
I am glad that Chickillo's gone. I'll just leave it at that. But I will say this, and I mentioned it earlier. What if Leal still gets some snaps at edge?
Oh, I think he will. I think they're going to get a little more creative with that.
Yeah, then maybe you can run with Roche and with Jones, and each of them's got their strength, and then have Leal to bring in there, is that versatile guy. So they might get away with not looking at that.
Yeah. Leal works. If you've seen the Steelers, they go to their under package where they will have like a 3-4 look, but it'll look like a 4-3. Leal can be that guy, a guy in that situation. You can use him a lot of times. Anytime they go to nickel or dime, you could put him in there, in my opinion, on the edge. Mm-hmm. But you're not having him stand up. You're not doing that. If he's your stand up outside linebacker, then you're making a mistake. So I think they still do need man, I'm getting I apologize, Shannon, for bringing it up. I know better. All right, going to inside linebacker. The Steelers on the roster at inside linebacker have Miles Jack and Mark Robinson.
And that kid, that guy from the Giants, Crowder?
Crowder, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, that's what they got. What are you doing there, Shannon?
Well, this is easy for me. I like Robert Spillane. I think he's a quality depth. He's proven himself that he can be a spot starter. 2-year team-friendly contract. I think he will jump at the chance to stay with Pittsburgh. He realizes he's more value at Pittsburgh than he is anywhere else. Good special teams guy, everything. Devin Bush, bye-bye. try to work with Mark Robinson to help him be part of the rotation. I don't think his coverage will be ready to be a starter, but I think he can be a big part of the rotation, and he will only improve in coverage. I would honestly, if I sign Spillane, I would consider moving on from Jax, either release him and sign him to a more reasonable contract, because I don't think anybody's going to pay him what he's scheduled to make. I think it's $8 million or something.
He is his cap is going to be 11 and a quarter, but 3.5, a little over 3 of that is there. $8 million is what he is due this year. That's what they can save if they cut him.
I don't see it. I think he's on the way down. I wrote the article about the top 7 free agent inside linebackers and their possibility of coming to the Steelers. This is where I spend my money in free agency, because there is no inside linebackers in this draft that I think are worthy in the first 3 picks. I think Simpson from Clemson, he could be. He's very, athletic, he's got all that, but I just don't see the production. And we've already seen what an athletic guy who don't have the want to looks like. And I would stay clear of him. The guys that, I think that Jack Campbell out of Iowa, I think that, he's got the size, but I think he's going to be overdrafted. I think teams are going to get enamored with his size. That leaves Sanders from Arkansas, who used to be at Alabama, and now he's 6'5" and 230-some, and he's very athletic and physical. But I think, I have a 3rd-round grade on him. If you reach for him before then, welcome to it. Then you got the Sewell young man from Oregon, who's huge, tiny. Inside linebacker. He would be a great buck linebacker. I think he's better in coverage than people think, but he likes to knock heads. And I love his physicality. I think he's, he could be that really good buck linebacker for the Steelers. But again, he might go in the 4th round. So to me, you spend your money to get an instant upgrade as a starter in free agency. And there's 7 quality guys out there, depending on what you're looking for. And then you develop Robertson, you have Spillane, and you draft one of them guys I was mentioning, 3rd or 4th round. The inside linebacker should be okay for quite a few years. But they got to upgrade. They just got to upgrade.
Yeah. So you would cut Miles Jack to sign and sign someone to even a bigger contract.
One of them other 7 guys, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. I just want to be clear on that. I think you can keep Miles Jack. Obviously, you got to see how he's rehabbing from his injury. I thought the first half of the season, he was our best linebacker, and I thought he was good enough for what we needed. I would if you could get someone better.
I don't want good enough. I'm tired of good enough. We haven't even had good enough lately. I want the standard. I want what Steeler inside linebackers are known for. I want that. I'm tired of since Shazier went down and Vince Williams retired, the Steelers have not had anything close to the standard. And I don't want to disagree with you, but I'm tired of good enough. I want the standard.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Disagreement is good. We can have some debate. We can have some healthy debate on this show. We can disagree. I would spend that money on defensive line and cornerback first. That's me. I want the safety room. I want the cornerback room. I want the defensive lines. Inside linebacker is like 4th to me. I don't think it's that key of a position that if you don't have one of the very, very best, I don't see the value in chasing someone who's in that, next tier down. Like, let's talk about Tremaine Edmonds. Mm-hmm. Like that's one of the, I assume he's one of your 7.
Yeah, he was. Yes.
Yeah. Like Tremaine Edmonds, if you could get him for, I don't know, $12 million a year, to me, he's a good linebacker, but like, I question things like putting, like, people want to bring Terrell and Tremaine together. And like, man, you got two guys who are great at running around and being the second person to the ball. Like, they're both really good at that, but they don't make any splash plays. Like, you're not getting interceptions, you're not getting forced fumbles, you're not getting sacks, and that's two guys then in that position. I don't.
Well, see,
I don't know.
I think Edmonds had more pass. I think it was 6 pass defense. I don't think all our inside linebackers combined had that many. I mean, this year his coverage caught up to the physicality in the running game. You know, he has that sideline to sideline speed, great size. 25. He's 24. He will be 25 to August. I mean, you're maybe getting him. But one thing in my article, which I don't think you've got to read yet, if you look at the top 7 guys, the median age is 26.
Yeah.
All of them were about 26. To me, you know, Pratt from the Bengals and Edmonds and David Long from Tennessee, Van Der Esch from the Cowboys. There was 2 other, all of them was like 26. And he's, you know, Edmonds is 24. He probably hasn't even hit his prime yet. And I love Pratt. Pratt's out there. Man, Pratt hits you, you've been hit. He done stuck a guy. And they're going down. And he's so physical. We haven't had that since Vince went down, or, you know, retired. So there's guys out there that is a huge upgrade from anything the Steelers have had for such a long time. And yes, the inside linebackers need that defensive line. They really do. But they need at least guys that can tie blockers. You can get space eaters in free agency to put inside there and fill up that inside and take on double teams. And then if you have quality inside linebackers, they're going to feast. You know, but if they get past that, into, you know, say you got a space eater and the running back gets past there and you got Schobert and Bush and Williamson and some of these sorry good for nothing inside linebackers we've had in there, man, you know, you got 18, 20-yard gains religiously. So I'm really wanting to see that. You know, this is the time when you got the rookie quarterback contract and, you know, they've already got so much money vested in the big 3 on defense. If you could spend $3-4 more million to get an upgrade for Jackson, get one of these 7 guys, I'd do it in a heartbeat.
Like my personal, I don't know, you probably know, you probably remember this. I love Levante David. If they could get him, I would pay it.
Yeah, but he's 33.
Yeah, he's 33 years old. Maybe that makes him a little more affordable, especially if the Buccaneers don't want him back. I expect if the Buccaneers want him back, he'll go back there just to finish out his career. But I would throw some money his way. I think that would be a great addition, especially if you're bringing up some younger guys. So if you draft somebody, I don't know. But for me, that is one of my other picks. I'm sending not the top 50, but that we got the 4th round picks, the 3rd and 4th round picks. That's my other one. One is offensive line. The other is I want an inside linebacker around that range, kind of middle of the draft kind of guy. Again, I'm not pushing for a top tier guy. That's me. That's my choice. I'm not paying Robert Spillane starter money. I'd bring him back if he's taken good backup money. I'd bring him back.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I'd go 3 deep on inside linebacker and not worry as much about having a top tier starter. That's how I'm approaching this. That I don't think that's as big a deal. I'm not spending there because I think defensive line and another position are much bigger needs right now. And speaking of that other position,
on that other one, yeah,
we'll move on to the cornerback position. The quarterback free agents, Cameron Sutton, unrestricted free agent. James Pierre is a restricted free agent. Steelers can make him an offer. And returning to that cornerback room, the Steelers have a lot of names. Tentatively, currently under contract, William Jackson. I think we can both agree he is not getting paid, $13.5 million. We can assume he's gone. Akella Witherspoon, Arthur Millette, Trey Norwood, Carlins Platel is back. He was an undrafted free agent. And wait, we should have also Wallace is back, right?
Yeah, Levi Wallace, yeah.
Yeah, Levi Wallace. This list does not have Levi Wallace on it. I don't know why. But Levi Wallace is back. Are you bringing back Sutton?
I mean, you talked about this when we talked about the defense, and I would, if it's a reasonable, even high end cornerback 2 money, yes. If somebody's willing to give him cornerback 1, you have to let him go, because he is a really smart player. He has really learned the Steelers scheme, and that makes him so effective. And he had his best season. You got to give him credit. And I know this is his first opportunity to really cash in, and he's earned it. And if he gets it, I'm not, mad at him. I mean, I'd be happy for him. But the Steelers can't be the team to give it to him.
Yeah.
Now, he could get good, QB2 money, and I would be okay. Because I would even be okay with him coming back and having Wallace as your other cornerback 2, and then upgrade in the slot. I would be fine with that. And try to get it would be great if one of those corners they really like, if there's one they think is a CB1 for them in the future at pick 17, that they grabbed them, because cornerback cost. And I don't see the Steelers signing a true number 1 because of how much it's going to cost them. If they do, it's going to be a guy like Bradbury, because Bradbury, I think, 30. He's earned where if he starts to tail off, he's going to fall off the cliff. So how much is his team's going to invest in a guy who's 30 a corner? And so Steelers might, but then if he does, they wasted all that money. So I would rather them use that high pick on a guy at 17. If one happens to fall to him, whether it's Joey Porter Jr., shoot, I can't think of the guy's name. Smith, maybe. He's like maybe your number 1 rate. Gonzalez. There's the top 3 or 4 corners. If one of them fell to 17, the Steelers would have to consider it.
Okay, one of these sites has Cameron Sutton's market value at $7.5 million a year. That puts him at top tier number 2 cornerback money.
Yeah,
because your top tier guys are $9 million. You take your top 32 cornerbacks in the NFL, you're talking about right around $9 million.
Yeah, and I think he's worth it.
So you would add that projected. I don't know how accurate that is, but at that projected market value, you'd say go with it.
I think he'll get offered more. I think he'll get offered around 9 or 10. I really do.
Okay, but
if it was around 7, I would have to do it. Because he has value in the Steelers system.
Yeah, he does.
And like I said, I would not be opposed to running back with him and Wallace, and then upgrade in nickel and in your depth there. Get you a young guy. See, people don't realize last year you had Wooten for the Seahawks. He wasn't a first round guy, and he was on the all rookie team.
Mm-hmm.
You have Mathis out of Pitt. He went to Denver. I loved him. I mean, he had some struggles, but speed, tight man coverage, short-term memory loss. I mean, he had, there were some guys. If you have a good scouting department, you can hit on some of them guys. They don't always have to be a number 1 or number 2, pick. So, based on the needs they have, if they can re-sign Sutton, and then upgrade in nickel and in their depth, I could live with that.
Okay, see. Here's where we disagree again. Because to me, if you have Sutton and Wallace, you have 2 number 2 cornerbacks, and you're just accepting that you can't cover Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. You're just saying, okay, we can't put a cornerback on these guys and be okay. We have to have help for them. Because both those guys, that's not going to happen. We saw that last season. So for me, I'm letting Sutton go. And I'm drafting. I'm spending one of those top picks. I'm drafting a cornerback, but I'm also looking at signing one. I'm also looking at signing a James Bradbury, someone at that level, someone who can, even if they're not excellent, can hang with a Jamar Chase, can be close enough to make that a contest where it's not. I mean, we saw games where Levi Wallace is on a guy, and the guy, 20 yards beyond the line of scrimmage, the guy's got a 5-yard lead on Levi Wallace. Levi Wallace it's similar to Joe Hayden and Levi Wallace last season, banged up a bit. He wasn't able to get away with the stuff he was able to get away with the year before. He's got limitations. I want him as a number 2. And if you bring back Cameron Sutton, that means Cameron Sutton's your number 1, and he's not that guy either. So for me, I want someone who can be physical, because we're playing way too much off coverage. And if you're going to do that, definitely. Then you need an elite talent. You need someone who's athletic as can be. You need incredible physical ability to offset the fact that you're playing off coverage and you're not interfering with the route at all. So for me, quarterback is a spot of investment. That is one of my prime. That is my number 1. That and defensive line are my number 1 spots of investment, where I'm saying get a free agent and a high draft pick in both of those spots. You're going to need somebody for now, and you're going to need somebody for the future. And really, if Levi Wallace ends up your number 3 cornerback, okay, that's not a problem to me. Like, that's okay. I'd much rather have that than what we had this year when anyone went down. You had James Pierre in there. You some of that stuff that can't go. I love James Pierre. I'd bring him back. I'm bringing him back.
Yeah,
but
it's
I'm bringing him back as nickel competition, where you can slide people inside. I just don't. I think that's the biggest place the Steelers need to upgrade, is at the quarterback room. Lastly, the safety position. So coming back, already signed, the Steelers have Minkah Fitzpatrick, Miles Killebrew, and a couple of futures guys, Kenny Robinson and Scott Nelson. But really, it's Minkah Fitzpatrick and Miles Killebrew. Miles Killebrew is a special teams guy. And your free agents, you're looking at Terrell Edmonds and DeMonte Kazee. Well, I guess we'd also have to put Trey Norwood. I listed Trey Norwood under cornerbacks. But he's really safety. Yeah, so you've got Minkah Fitzpatrick, Trey Norwood, and Miles Killebrew.
Yeah, I think that, how I feel about Edmonds. I think, they need to lock Terrell up for giving him a 3-year deal. Fair market value. Again, as you said, he's not splashy. And so that's going to keep his costs down. We've seen that during the last free agency period. But he's very valuable to the Steelers, especially because him and Minkah work so well together. So bring him back would mean priority for me. Then I would love to have Kazee back, because he's the best deep safety on the team. And he's much more physical than I give him credit for. And so he can literally be back up both positions, because, he can play free safety, and he hits and is physical enough to play some strong safety. Not as a starter, but, filling in. And then, again, you're just going to look for, depending on what kind of money situation is, a reasonable free agent, and maybe a draft pick, depending on, who falls where. But, that is, if they can bring back Edmonds and Kazee, I feel I'm comfortable with the safety position.
Yeah, that's exactly my take is I would prioritize Edmonds first, and then DeMonte Kazee, especially if the market's like it was last year. These guys were both. Everyone's sitting there saying, "Yeah, these guys are good players. Who's going to sign them?" Nobody. Nobody was signing them. So if the market is the same kind of market as there was last year, oh, absolutely. I'd even pay them a little more than they got this past season, where they were really. They were. Edmonds was on a veteran. It's a different term now, but it's what used to be a veteran minimum contract. Edmonds was on a veteran minimum contract this last season, which is crazy.
It is.
That's absolutely crazy to me. But that's where he was. I think Kazee might have also been on one. But I'd sign them. I'd bring them back. I think your safety room is okay. We had a comment. We had a comment in the thing in our chat saying from Tyler, right here. Sign a cornerback, inside linebacker, D offensive line free agents, and bring back Edmonds. These numbers don't add up. That's why we're not Omar Khan.
Yes.
That's why we're not in the front office of the Steelers.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the article the other day. They said, they could have restructured Watt last year, freed up a lot of money, but it wasn't necessary. They can easily do that. Cam Hayward, Fitzpatrick, whether they may not want to now, but they could easily do that. You cut William Jackson the third, you're freeing up all that money. They can easily free up $45 million.
Yeah.
And so, some of the stuff, yes, but some of it is, we're not going to get all that, obviously, but 2 or 3 of that, on the wish list, I think it's doable. We agreed on the offense pretty much. On the defense, I'm more wanting this year with the 7 guys available at inside linebacker. I want to see him make a move there and make a smaller move at the defensive line and cornerback, whereas you would rather see the bigger move at defensive line and a cornerback. So,
absolutely.
but we're pretty much similar.
Yeah.
And again, it's going to depend on how free agency falls and who wants what and who wants to go where. So, but that will shape the draft.
It will. And it's gonna be an interesting one.
Yeah.
You kind of did my rundown. I was going to do a little bit of a rundown and say, yeah, we agree.
Oh, I'm sorry.
we agree at quarterback.
Yeah.
Although thinking about the salary cap, maybe we're cutting Trubisky here. Maybe we got to get rid of him now because that's $8 million. And with what I'm doing on defense, I probably do have to let him go. But we pretty much agreed there. Draft a late round guy as a chance, or undrafted free agent, somebody mobile come in, kind of a Chris Oladokun style, and have a veteran. If you don't have Trubisky, get someone cheaper, which I'm leaning towards now. Running back, we said bring in undrafted free agent. You don't really have to go big running back, late round pick, undrafted free agent. If there's a free agent or undrafted free agent, yeah. And if there's a low tier free agent that you like, that's fine. Master Teague's in that position as well for the number 3 running back. We both kind of like re-signing Watt if it's a reasonable contract. But if not, fullback's not really a priority at all. Tight end, we both like throwing another an investment in a tight end. That's our luxury pick. The team doesn't really have a lot of room for luxury picks, but Shannon and I both want to make that luxury pick and get a splash tight end. Top tier guy in the draft, young guy. Make this a 3-headed monster. Wide receiver, neither of us are putting much into wide receiver either. Offensive line, draft pick. Like we're looking for a draft pick there and some the same kind of veterans they've been bringing in to be depth. And that's if you missed the start, if you missed that part of the show, both Shannon and I are willing to walk into next season with a chance that it's the same starting 5 and Dan Moore is out there at left tackle. A chance to replace him, but if it happens, hey, we're okay with it. We're okay with it. So a lot of people are not okay with that. I saw comments saying they need 2 picks on the offensive line. I don't think you're getting 2.
No, one, one, yes.
Defensive line, we want somebody, a veteran, either Ogunjobi comes back or you sign a comparable kind of contract guy and bring in a draft pick. Shannon, a lower one. Me, that's one of my top ones. Shannon went inside linebacker. He wants to add higher price free agent, a better draft pick, really address the position for now and for the future. I'm fine running it with like second tier guys. Not even second tier, second rate is kind of what you have to describe the inside linebackers. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. That's where I'm saving money here. Cornerback, I'm going big there. I'm going bigger than Shannon there. Shannon's okay with bringing back what we had last year. And safety, we both agree. Get Edmonds and Kazee back. We'll get at least Edmonds back. And if they're cheap, get them both. So that's our roster moves. That's how we are building the Steelers 2023 Super Bowl roster. Right there. That's how they do it.
I'm excited.
Shannon and I.
I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it.
Looking forward to when Mr. Weidel calls over here and is like, "Hey guys, what was that? What was that again? Where you drafted a cornerback?" Any moment, guys, he's going to be calling. Trust us.
Yep.
All right. Well, that's our show. I want to thank everyone in the live chat. Been having fun reading comments. Love the participation. Love the discussion going on there. Always glad to see you guys here. For everyone listening on the audio side, thank you so much for spending your time with us talking Steelers football. Listen to us go on about what we do with the Steelers roster. I want everyone know who's listening. We are 2 weeks away from moving into our looking at colleges. We're trying to get guests. We're working that direction. So we're really working towards the draft season here. We're finishing up our free agency side. So thank you again for listening. As always, have a great week, and let's go Steelers.